you know, maybe it's all the placements in the sky that are lined up with my natal chart, but it feels like opportunity, right? And benevolent opportunity at that. That's definitely Capricornian energy, especially evolved Capricorn energy. Now, I only have enough battery life to make a short video for this, but that's okay because that's the perfect growth opportunity for me because I've been wanting to get my videos a little bit shorter, get back to kind of the divine nugget sort of thing. And I've noticed that there are more individuals that have been interested in stuff that I share that is about manifesting or Abraham Hicks stuff or things like that. And a friend of mine actually asked a question that made me go, oh, you know what? This is like the whole, sometimes we get stuck in imposter syndrome when it comes to teaching what we know, especially on YouTube, because we think, oh, well, people probably already know that. But what I've learned time and time again is like there's always somebody who doesn't know how to tie their shoes. You know, like, and it's basic stuff like that. You know, there are plenty of people that walk around and just stuff their shoelaces into their shoes because they never learned how to tie their shoes. You know, and one, the more you talk about that, the less stigma there is attached to it. And two, if you're willing to teach that, then those who want to help themselves will come and find you and you can talk about it. And in this case, it reminded me that there are plenty of people who like don't have someone they feel comfortable talking to about what is, you know, what's the language mean? Like how do you understand what people talk about, especially with manifesting? So and the question was about resistance, and I was like, ooh, because I remember being in a space where I did not quite understand what, like Abraham, hello, Aya, it's great to see you again. I did not fully understand what that meant either. Like, what is this resistance you speak of? And the way the friend put it was great. They said, like, why would you resist something that you want? Like, it seems pretty simple. Like, if you want it, you're not resisting it. Yes and no. Like, the irony is the thing I didn't understand before was you have to get through the shadow work first and then it's that easy. And Abraham and others, Eckhart, often talk about it in a way of like, you can't get there from there. Only because it's not that you're doing anything wrong, it's that there's so much weight. Like think about how many times growing up you heard life ain't fair or you're never gonna be that rich or be more practical or kids are a burden or, you know, all those things. Like if any of that sits in your subconscious, it's like Abraham often likens it to a cork, or rather, they had a period of time when they likened it to a cork in water, right? If you just leave that cork alone, it bobs in the water just fine. It floats all the way up. But if you're holding it down in the water, it'll go down, like, you know. And the thing is, it's like the best example I like. So there's been a couple people that I've been following along with in their adventure and learning with them, and they learn from me, and like a lot of them have already achieved the level of like $1 million, right? And it's funny, I can feel the resistance energetically when I talk about that, and then I think about myself like wanting $1 million and knowing that I could manifest it too. Like, and it's funny because like, so that there's the example, right? Like, take something that you want, that you would like to have, and then think about what are the things that pop into your mind that make you that talk yourself out of it. Like how do you talk yourself out of something that you want that you could have, with usually it's language that our parents used around us or teachers or people on TV and stuff like that. So what comes to mind in my mind is like how, like, how long would it take? Like how long? It's funny because I've trained myself so much. I can feel my ego self-correcting because I've retrained my ego in a lot of ways, which is another thing that happens when you practice mindfulness over and over. And so, like when I feel my mind going like I'm trying to reach for the thoughts of like what would I have told myself in the past that would prevent me from doing it, and they'll float in sometimes and then they go away before I can even speak them, which is where you want to be. But I'm trying to figure out how to do the whole explaining how to tie your shoes thing, which can make that complicated. So Because to be honest, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I can make $1 million. $1 million isn't what people think it is anymore. I used to be able to get around all darn day on $20. Like you could take bus rides, get a pizza, get a few packs of smokes and some 40s. Like, and this is, like, but it was also when I was a teenager and I did not have other responsibilities. But still, the amount that you could get on that, and then even by the time that I was driving a car and had my first kid, still, like, $40 could get you all over the place for a couple of days, right? And not in extravagant means, but you could get a lot for your dollar then. And so like in my mind, I'm already going for the solution, like letting the cork float up. Um, but I'm going to attempt to push the cork down for a minute so that you can see it. So if I was to throw on something like, how could I be that special? Right? Why would I, like, why would I get $1 million? How would I get $1 million? A lot of people tend to go towards the lottery, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just more complicated because the cork, it's collective in there, and you have to get to a place where you feel deserving of it. Yeah, right. Yeah, see, yeah, you live well. Yeah, you can live well no matter what. And see, that's part of the good manifesting right there. But no, okay, so the lottery is one that it's like you can do it, though your vibration has to be so stable and like unaffected by the other elements in order to do it. So I tend to say don't rule it out, but don't just be like, oh, I'll only make $1 million or more if I win the lottery. Like there are so many other ways to make that money. But let's say that that's the way I was holding my cork down. Is like, well, I'm not that special. Like I could say I don't have that many people that subscribe to my channel, and I only get like maybe 40 or 50 views per video, and I'm homeless, and I've got all these other things. How could I possibly, like, because in my mind too, I'm thinking $1 million in 2022. Like that's where my mind is at. I'm that eccentric too, and I love manifesting so much that like I want to do that. Like that's a raw want. I don't know, I don't know how or when, but like see, and you can see my cork coming back up, right? Like I'm talking myself into it, like energetically. It doesn't necessarily mean like I'm not going to go start living like I have $1 million in my pocket per se, but energetically in my mind, I'm already there, and but if I was to hold my cork down and be like, well, there aren't that many people listening to me, or, well, you know what, my own parents didn't even want to listen to me, so why would anyone else want to listen to me? Or things that they may have said, like, oh, remember how you used to quit this or that all the time, or you can't even quit smoking cigarettes, or just stuff like that, you know what I mean? Like, that's what gets your cork down. But a lot of people, like I'll talk to them and they'll be like, you know what, I would love $1 million. And I'm like, well, let's do this, and where they often will drop off and like not come back into the coaching is because they'll start telling me stuff like that, the stuff that holds their cork down. Well, I have too many responsibilities with my pets. And I'll say, okay, well, why don't you compassionately find a few homes for a few of your pets so that you have more space in your life so that you can get that income in, and then you could even work it out with the people that take them for you, that you want to come back for them, if you're able to, because once you have that $1 million, you have the resources that you need to have the help to work with them, especially if you're telling me that part of the reason you don't have the income you want is because you spend it on the pets, and you spend all your time worrying about them and not doing for yourself and not pursuing your dreams. And it's something like that. They might go, like, it's talking them out of the excuse, and we all experience kind of a dissonance at that point. Like even one of my brothers did it to me too with smoking the other day, but I giggled because it was perfect, because I've been asking spirit for assistance in gentler ways to help me release smoking and take on a healthier replacement habit that is good for me. And it was perfect because the situations that we've been in have limited how much I can and want to smoke, and also pointed out like where it's my story versus where it's like the actual nicotine and stuff. And so I'm like, okay, yeah. You know what? If I could still manifest like that in these situations, in these circumstances, then it's like why couldn't I manifest $1 million this year? And in benevolent ways. Like in the past, it may have been like I've had people warn me about, well, be careful about wishing for or praying for money, because you might get money through having a car accident, and then you're injured, and then you, like, what if you lose a limb, or what if somebody else gets hurt in that, or like what if it's like somebody stole money and left it and you found it, but that means that you've stolen money. Like, there's all these, you see what I mean? Those are like, that's shadow work to do. Like, why does getting money to you need to be through a worst case scenario? What about the best case scenarios? What if you go down and you're like, I want a job in this place, and you get a job in this place, and there's this like eccentric billionaire that likes to come and eat in said place, or do karaoke in said place, or do whatever thing, and they really like you, and they're like, hey, this is weird, but I would like to have you be an apprentice to me, and I want to show you how to make $1 million, and I'm not going to make you buy anything or nothing. Like, you can ask everybody here. I am literally the eccentric billionaire. I am, and I do this sometimes, and like, they can prove that with all the referrals and references that you could ever want, and then bam, they teach you how to get $2 million. Like, you see what I mean? Like, the funny thing is, in terms of the absurdities, like, going towards positive absurdities is just as absurd as going towards like negative derogatory ones. And actually, it makes far more sense to be imagining good best case scenarios than it is to do worst case scenarios, because what you think about most often is what you manifest. So if you're thinking about worst case scenarios all the time, that's what you're going to manifest. And what I've learned too, in terms of like, so see, this is the explaining of the resistance thing. Hang on a second. Oh, I've got 1%. My phone's going to die. So that tells me that I love you all, and this is all you get for right now. Feel free to ask more questions, and we'll do more about resistance, releasing resistance, recognizing resistance, and anything else you would like to learn about. I love you all. I'll see you in the next video.